Okay, headline news. Brand new. This came out today, 2025, at 2:20 p.m., which is like 20 minutes ago. Here's the summary. Washington State Governor Bob Ferguson signed a bill into law that caps rent increases at 7%, which plus inflation or 10%. And so the measure caps rent at 7% plus inflation or 10%, whichever is lower. The restrictions include single-family homes. The rent increase cap for manufactured homes is 5%. Oh, so for manufactured homes, it's even lower. And lawmakers approved the plan on a 54-44 vote, with 5 Democrats joining the Republican opposition. So there, it sounds like there was a Republican opposition, and 5 Democrats even on this decided that they don't want to go for it. So it went through, but sounds like reluctantly. Now, Ferguson praised Alvarado and many advocates across the state who worked hard to get the bill passed. It almost didn't make it, which I can assume. This is one of the first states, and it's very controversial. And there's been some interesting results from other places. Maybe we can make a video on that at some point, who have tried to do this rent cap, and it's really, really backfired. So we'll see if Washington is one of the states where it actually reduces homelessness, where it reduces evictions, or if it's one of those states like the other cases that we've seen in the past where things explode like housing prices in a state that already has extremely, extremely high housing prices and an extremely, extremely tight market for people who want to buy housing, creating a more of a renter kind of a normal where everybody becomes renters and rent just continually to increase, ticks up. Almost, it sounds a little socialist to me, where in everybody makes it fair for everybody because nobody gets priced out of being a renter, but nobody can afford housing. Okay, so Oregon's rent control bill was passed in 2019 and later updated to rent cap increases at either 7% plus the annual 12-month average change to the consumer pricing index for the U.S. West, or 10%, whichever is lower. So we essentially copied Oregon from what it sounds like. The Conference Committee got the cap down to 7% plus inflation, or 10%, whichever is lower, and restored protections to the 38% of renters who live in single-family homes with Ferguson's signatures. It's now a law. So single-family homes are 38% of the renters, which is really interesting, but this is the problem with the 38% who are the single-family homes. Those are sometimes, not all the time, mom and pop people, right, who are actually single-family homes. Like they bought a single-family home and then they bought maybe another single-family home, or they bought a single-family home specifically to rent it out. It's not like these big corporations that own these big apartment complexes or condos and things like that. So we'll see how this affects those smaller landlords. So this law is a good beginning. It's long overdue and it's urgently needed, Alvarado says. 40% of people in Washington state are renters or manufactured homeowners, so a little less than half. And before today, they had no protections over how high rent can go, leading to pain and the devastating destabilization of families and communities. And what I would say is that's actually not accurate. You can't just increase the rent unreasonably already. There's contractual provisions in the law that say that that's not allowed. It has to be a reasonable, essentially increase. You're going to have to figure that out through litigation. So maybe it's not as easy at the moment to figure out, well, what's reasonable and what's not, when this is very clear. It's just, you can't go over 10% or 7% plus inflation, whichever is lower. So yeah, I mean, it's a little bit of an inaccurate statement. There wasn't completely no protections, because you do have to follow contract law at the moment. Is it a good idea or not? We're just going to have to see. Like I said, one of the first states in the country, again, to give this type of tenant protection. The cession of affordable housing, he said, before signing the first measure. The other measures include, and there's like 6 measures that have to do with tenants' rights that are, coming up here. The measures include limits on certain provisions in rental agreements, notices for mobile home communities, and property tax relief for disabled veterans. Yeah, this is, like you said, probably the most controversial one, and it was the first one signed in. So the other ones are probably going to have a similar path to get passed into law. So if you want to catch up with more laws specifically regarding real estate and rentals in Washington state, make sure you follow. We're going to be continuing this story as it progresses.